Here's what happened, guys. There's some good news coming out of Kentucky that was posted on X yesterday, relating to one of our principles with this movement to make America's future a small business renaissance, which is getting rid of unnecessary regulations that make no sense. And it's sometimes we look at it and we're like, where is the common sense here? But making sure we're getting rid of these unnecessary regulations for small business owners across over 1,000 industries here in the U.S. This is one step in the right direction. It's not yet final for the bill to be. It hasn't passed the Senate yet. But yesterday, a state representative, Savannah Maddox, posted, who's a sponsor of this bill, posted about it passing the House, and it is called the Chicken Bill. So I want to share screenshots of her post. She explains it for this bill. But welcome back to the show. Let's get into it. Let me get that up for that screenshot here. This gets me really excited for the direction that we're going into the future because, again, we're experiencing massive change. We're in it. I've talked about the fourth turning. It's happening, and within massive change, we got to channel that massive change to make sure that we're making America's future a small business renaissance. So here it is. Hopefully you can see it. It's small. It's small on my screen. So hopefully you guys can see it. I'm going to read it though. So the first part is just saying that it has passed the House. This is the second paragraph. I'm going to read it to you. If the bill becomes law, Kentucky's poultry producers who slaughter fewer than 20,000 birds a year will be able to sell it directly from their farm, a farmer's market, or roadside stand without transporting their flock to a mobile processing unit or wading through costly bureaucratic regulations. Kentuckians deserve access to nutritious, locally sourced, affordable foods. Yes, so important, and gets me really excited for the momentum, and then seeing what other states are coming up with too to support this initiative of localizing the food supply chain. Because I spoke about it before on the show, how there's a consolidation of power that has happened in the beef industry with beef processing plants, and how a handful control around 80% of the processing. But something that is also not getting talked about enough with this war with Iran is the potential famine that could happen in different countries around the world relating to the energy crisis, especially with the basically closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Even though there are we're getting mixed messages on mainstream, so I'm really grateful for other podcasters that can focus on actually learning more about the truth, and not, during war times there's a lot of propaganda that gets put out there. But seeing, when it comes to the basic closure of the Strait of Hormuz, and then seeing that the first country, Philippines, stating a declaration, why I'm missing it right now, declaring a state of emergency. There we go. Happy hump day here, Wednesday. But Philippines is the first country that has declared a state of emergency due to the energy crisis, and that they're on track to run out of fuel in less than 2 months. So what then happens is, when there's the energy crisis, it then becomes more difficult to also feed the population. And I even go back to overall, for quality of life, one way you have less poor people is you make energy cheaper. And then if you don't even have access to energy, there becomes a cascading, devastating effect that can have on a population that we need to talk more about. And my hope is that this war ends as soon as possible. We got to continue to put pressure on ending this war as soon as possible. And that goes back to seeking out the truth, communicating the truth, and getting that out to more people so that we're aware of that. And here in the U.S., we've got to be prepared for the effects of this energy crisis. Gratefully, we have a lot of resources in this country, but also moving into the future, a prediction that I've made is that local farming is going to be one of the most popular. Is going to be the most popular and most valued industry in the future, because what is happening with this war, and this was talked about in an interview that Tucker Carlson had with a professor of history, is that there's a reordering of the system, and this could force then nations to have to become self-reliant. And this is where localizing the supply chain, and when it relates to food, we got to prepare ourselves for the future here in the U.S., and making sure that we, as Americans, that we're supporting each other. And it goes back to how local farming and this bill, the chicken bill, is a step in the right direction to make it easier and more accessible to be able to buy nutritious, locally sourced food. So we have to continue to talk more about this. And what I want to share to reinforce this point is I'm going to share this is coming in from one of the benefits of AI is Gronk being able to break down all of the different energy facilities that have been hit through due to this conflict in Iran and in the overall in the Middle East. So let me get this up here so you can see this. Okay, again, I'm hoping you can see this on mine. I'm way bigger than this document, so I'm hoping that you guys can see this. But let me read it if you can't. So the energy, so for Iran energy infrastructure hit, you can see a few here, but the big one, South Pars gas field. I hope I'm saying that right. That one, I have trouble with that one. And then in the Gulf states, you have Saudi Arabia with a refinery, Qatar with the complex. Then you have Kuwait, UAE. And then in Israel, too, you have the Haifa oil refinery. So there's been a lot of damage that's been done to energy production in the Middle East. And this isn't something that just gets fixed overnight. I mean, these facilities, it could take years for some of these facilities to be rebuilt and these refineries to get back into full production. So we're going to be feeling these effects across the globe. And leading up to this, I didn't even could potentially connect the points here, but if you may have heard this be said of there's a new world order that's being organized. And this was big when the World Economic Forum held their annual event. And then I heard it from Mark Carney when I believe he was having, I don't know what the event was in Canada, but I remember him speaking on this new world order. Then J.D. Vance, our vice president here in the U.S., talking about it for this new world order. And right now there seems to be a shift in the current systems, and because of this massive shift, there's going to be massive friction, and there can be massive, I mean, we're already experiencing it with this war, massive damage that's being done, and terrible costs to this war through lives that are being lost, to the damage that's being done to energy infrastructure, and then the potential ramifications that can have in the years to come for the future populations. This is a reordering that is happening in real time, and we've got to talk more about this. We got to prepare for this more because we're going to all be feeling the effects in some way globally. And that could be to the point of, the gas prices rising, inflation increasing, to changes in how we source our food. There are different possibilities of what could happen in the future, but because of this massive change that is currently happening as small business owners, I believe America's future leaders are small business owners. We got to lead by example in channeling this change in a way where we can move forward and make sure that as Americans, we're focused on improving the quality of life, but we also quality of life of Americans here. But you also realize there's going to be a lot of pain that could be felt in these next few years, and we got to prepare for that within our businesses across the industries, and being able to take the steps towards getting rid of unnecessary regulations that make no sense in order to be able to spur productivity and to help combat the potential rise in inflation. That is something we have to continue to put pressure on and move forward in pursuing. Not just within our industries, but overall as a society, we got to continue to put pressure, especially on our elected officials, to understand what our desires are as American citizens, and making sure we're vocalizing that, communicating that, and to create less regulations and be able to create more opportunities to get into being a small business owner as well, and being able to be self-sufficient. It's because since the founding of this country, all the way up to 1860s, we experienced the first industrial revolution with the mill, but then the majority of Americans were yeoman farmers, self-employed, self-reliant farmers. And I would not be surprised in our future we have a new form of that moving forward. There's a lot of desire with younger people and across generations, but especially with the younger people, to want to eat healthy, real food, locally sourced. And with that can come the pain of not being able to get everything you want because of the seasons, and especially depending on where you live, maybe more difficult to get certain foods that you used to like. But we have to step up as small business owners and lead by example. And then for the rest of us, the rest of our society as Americans, we all have to step up, and we got to continue to realize that we're going to be able to get through these hard times. The chaos is temporary, and we can continue to move towards building stability across our industries here in the U.S. and focus on a local supply chain, localizing the supply chain, and then continuing to reinforce taking care of one another. Because that is something that is one of the things that makes this country the greatest country in the entire history of the world, is our generosity to each other, generosity to the world as American citizens. Yes, when it comes to our government, there can be terrible actions that are made, and definitely overall there's evilness in our country. That is something we have to continue to shine light on. Go back to the Epstein class, and how this movement is about the people versus the Epstein class. And we as Americans have to realize the reality that we're living in, but then also work towards a better future, and towards a future that makes America's future a small business renaissance. So let me share with you another point here that I think, did I have another one here? I was going off today on this. Yeah, the other thing is there was just an announcement that was made. So I don't have it up here, but I have a note of it. Is that the 82nd Airborne troops are being deployed to the Middle East, and so there are American troops that are being deployed and continuing to be deployed. And so we have to ask ourselves: is this war ending soon, or is it ramping up even more to get us even more involved in this war? That is something we have to continue to ask ourselves, and be on guard for the different propaganda that we're getting in the mainstream news. That is, again, something I'm really grateful for the independent journalists and independent media outlets and other fellow podcasters that are wanting to seek out the truth and then communicate the truth to you. Because how this looks is, it looks like we're going to get more involved, not less involved. And all the different talking points that are out there, if that's from President Trump to the Iran government, is this like propaganda, these talking points back and forth to try to, I don't know if it's create more leverage. That'd be my opinion. My other opinion would be, is this propaganda for the populations? I don't have a clear answer for you on that. I have some guesses, but we got to be on guard of, like, are we moving towards getting more involved? And if so, we have to prepare for this, adapt to that future, but then remind ourselves we can shape the future. And so when we seek out the truth and we find out the truth, I've said it before, it can be uncomfortable at times, this truth. It can be shocking even at times, but it can give us peace to understand what is going on. And now then it's up to us to courageously communicate that truth and have more conversations about this, and to also make aware where we disagree. For me, with this war, I want this war to stop as soon as possible. I love this country. I love Americans, and I want to make sure that we have an America first policy. And with this war, I just, what I see for the potential futures is a lot of pain and destruction, not just within the Middle East, but then what that effect can have globally, coming back to here at home with us, with our way of life as Americans. And I want this war to end as soon as possible to minimize that damage. And then we got to prepare for the reality of this future, and then continue to move forward so that the Renaissance can happen, because the Renaissance is coming. The chaos is temporary. If you guys are a small business owner that loves this country too, like I do, I hope you love this country. It does not mean it's perfect. It is not. There's evil forces in this country. We have to be aware of that and continue to find people and connect with people that are in integrity, that believe in honesty, communicating the truth, that understand that your business reputation isn't worth damaging your soul. And so doing what is right over what is easy and convenient is the way forward. It's going to take a lot of courage to be able to do that. Faith, I come back to my faith in Christianity and believing in Jesus as my Lord. And understanding that Christ is King, and holding on to that through these tough times. But together we got to unite, that from different cultures, that if it's from different nationalities who have immigrated over generations to this country, different religious faiths, understanding, coming back to the American dream and unifying on the American dream, to realize that you can just have a small amount of resources, and through hard work, determination, smart strategy, you can create a better life for yourself, for your family, and that you love this country and you're grateful for this country, like I am. I'm grateful that my family has been here for generations, and I've been able to experience the benefits of this country, and I truly love this country, and that is something that unifies us, no matter our backgrounds as Americans, is the love for the country and the possibility of this American dream. And we got to continue to preserve what is great about this country and fight for what is beautiful, good, and true about this country. So if you're a business owner that also wants to connect with other business owners that resonate and love this country and resonate with what I just said, they can join us for A Future Fest. This is where you can register at afuturefest.com. It's happening January 14th and 15th, 2027 in Charleston, South Carolina. The plan is to have over 300 small business owners from across industries, across the country, coming together to shape the future, and to be able to adapt to the future, and to be able to help each other and with each other's challenges, to how to continue to improve our communities and also our individual businesses, because when small businesses are thriving, the quality of life of our communities improves. So I'm excited for that event coming up, and then I will see you guys tomorrow.